Morning, everybody. This is Pastor Doug Zirkle from Mission of Grace. This is the Sunday before Easter Sunday, and I'm looking so forward to next week. We'll be able to meet together in the church. We'll still be live streaming, but we would love it if you could come to the church on Easter Sunday morning, probably the greatest Sunday morning of the year, and we'll sing together and celebrate Jesus, his resurrection. Think about it. He's the only guy we know of that defeated death and it stayed defeated. He's still winning. And we're going to celebrate that on Easter Sunday. And I hope you can join us live at Mission of Grace. We're going to start at 10 o'clock. I'm going to start my thing around 10:20. And then we're going to try to go to 11 or a little after or whatever. But we want you to be there. Plenty of time, so I'd love it if you could spend the first little bit of the morning with us at Mission of Grace Live next week, Easter Sunday morning. Okay, well, today, let's see, we're going to talk about darkness versus light. Now, I want to start out with John 3:19, great verse. This is the verdict. Light has come into the world, but people love darkness instead of light because their deeds were evil. John 3:20, everyone who does evil hates the light and will not come into the light for fear of their deeds being exposed. All right, well, 2 weeks ago we talked about what it is that God hates. And last week we discussed probably the worst thing Jesus could ever say, and that is when he preached about the word repentance. And this week we're going to talk about the difference between light and darkness and how the Christian world sort of merged in a little bit with the darkness. So, if you're taking notes, we're going to talk about light, we're going to talk about darkness, and point number 3 is we're going to talk about Jesus. All right, so let's start out with point 1, light. Genesis 1-4 tells us, in the beginning God created the heavens and earth. Now that the earth was formless and empty, darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, let there be light. And there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. Now think about it. Everything was together, and God separated light from dark. In spiritual terms, that's like he separated good, the brightness of good, the evidence of good, what you can see in good, and darkness, which, of course, is really hard to see in. And so you have light and you have darkness. All right, two very distinct things. So I'm going to read a few verses here out of the Gospels, and I want you to take note with me. John 1:9 says, there was the true light, which is coming into the world, enlightens every man. Guess who the true light is? Jesus Christ. John 8:12 says, then Jesus spoke to them, saying, I am the light of the world. He who follows me will not walk in the darkness, but will have the light of life. John 9:5, while I am in the world, I am the light of the world. Well, he's still in it. He's still the light inside that causes men to see clearly. John 12:35-36, Jesus said to them, for a little while longer the light is among you. Walk while you have the light, so that the darkness will not overtake you. He who walks in the darkness does not know where he goes. While you have the light, believe in the light, so that you may become the sons of light. These things Jesus said. Well, John 12:46 says, I have come as a light into the world, so that everyone who believes in me will not remain in darkness. Obviously, spiritually speaking, Jesus is the light for man. He's the thing we're looking for to clear away the confusion, the darkness, the deep things we can't reason through on our own that we're trapped in, we're caught in bondage to. We don't know where to go. We don't know what to say. We don't know what's going to happen next. Jesus Christ is our light. We're stuck in darkness. We're fallen into a pit of hopelessness. Where does our light come from? It comes inwardly from the light of God that's Jesus Christ. We live in an enlightened age. We probably live in the most enlightened age there ever was. We have satellites sprinkled across the darkness of space. We have information and enlightenment we've never been exposed to as humankind. And yet people still find themselves in darkness. A lot of people are still alone, still desperate for a purpose, still wondering what life's about, wandering around in the darkness and in the darkness of their soul. And we know what the light is. The light's Jesus, but people hide from light. Why do they hide in the darkness from light? Because according to what we just read, they don't want to be exposed. People live in secret. People live in shame. People live like the way I am is the way I am. I can't explain the complexities of my life, but I prefer just to be left alone in my darkness. Even if they're rich, even if they're wealthy, even if they have better clothes than you do, they could still prefer the darkness of heart rather than the beauty and the exposure of light. That God can take and change and open you up. A lot of people fear that. They fear what might happen if they actually become what they could be in the sight of God and man. Let's see. Like I said, there's no difference between the rich and the poor, the healthy or the sick. When people live in darkness, they've been caught up in the tidal wave of just being moved along. And even though they may say, well, I know who I am and I like who I am, deep down in their heart, they can never admit their need for God. So let's go to point number 2. I'm going to take a sip of water, and that is darkness. As Christians, unfortunately, we've allowed ourselves to blend into the shadows of evil. We've gotten comfortable with things. Let's face it, if you sit in darkness long enough, you start to notice things. The shape of a chair or the shape of a lamp or something. You start to notice things. So you can get used to the darkness, even to the point to where you think, you know what, I can see pretty good. But you're still in darkness. You're sort of in a gray area. And so we're used to blending in. We have the idea that, man, if I can just act like the world, maybe I can win the world over. If I can be a little bit like everybody else, maybe they'll be drawn to Jesus. But the difference between light and dark is exactly that. One is light, brightness, and the other is dark. You can't see well. You're stumbling over things. I don't know if you've ever been asleep where you're in one of those places where you open your eyes and it's still dark in the room. I remember going with Lisa one time to visit her family in Arkansas. And I'm going to tell you something, man. The nights are dark. You can't see anything in front of your face. And you can get used to stepping around a few things, but it really helps when you turn the light of day on. It helps a whole lot to just even have a little spotlight, a little flashlight, because it can be dark. But like I say, Christians tend to get used to the darkness. We're living in an age right now that nothing's really called evil. Nothing really separates the good from the bad. Everything's okay. We just sort of live with this notion that it's all good. We get lulled into looking like, thinking like, acting like, talking like everyone else in the name of fitting in and trying to lead the lost to the ways of God. And yet we look exactly like the ways of lost people who are in distress, in trouble, in anger, frustrated. The idea of fighting fire with fire. We just fall into the trap because we're dealing with a very clever foe. And he's good at making us feel like we're doing right when really we're just doing what everybody else is doing. Let's see, people want to know how much of this world they can enjoy and still be a believer. It's how much should I dedicate myself to loving God versus how much can I get away with and still call myself a Christian. That's kind of the age we're living in. And we put up with the brutality and the unreasonableness of sin, and is kind of like the tails wagging the dog. We're getting a little bit confused that we're to be different people, not self-righteous, judgmental, condemning people, looking down on it. Oh, they should know God like we know God. We should be out of the picture completely. A little bit like John the Baptist's cry about more of you, God, less of me. Well, that needs to be us. Why are we even visible? We need to be almost invisible, like when the Indians used to walk in order to get away from people. They all used the same steps. The first one would lead out, and the others would all follow those same footsteps. They'd put their feet in the same pathway, and it appeared as if they were chasing one man rather than a group of people. And that, that one man we should be following in the footsteps of Jesus Christ. Why should we be noticed at all? We need to be loving and kind and accepting and truthful and fearless rather than always, defending ourselves or getting bent out of shape or whatever. We need to walk the way of Jesus and not try to blend in so much with the atmosphere like, well, we're just like you are. We just have a different truth than you do. No. I think when we come to terms with how cruel the innocent have been damaged in the name of open-mindedness, maybe we'll realize open-mindedness is more closed-minded than we think it is. Because everything today is about, we got to have an open mind. You got to be able to see everything. And I do not agree with that. I feel like a lot of people have said things like, well, to thine own self be true. Like Shakespeare is Jesus Christ. We're quoting from the Bible. I think the fastest way to hell is to thine own self be true, because thine own self is usually the problem. Hate to tell you that, but we're usually the problem. So why should I be true to my quote unquote truth? I have no truth. I mean, I have whatever I want to feel. If it feels good, do it. If I think it makes sense to me, that's good with me. Don't judge me. Leave me alone. I'll do what I want. The problem is I have a propensity. We all have a propensity to lean towards sin. We're all capable of being extremely selfish. And the problem is that selfishness leads to trouble, and trouble leads to hell. We're so thinking we're independent. Wow, I'm not like anybody else. I'm so unique, but we all have the same haircuts. We all have the same tattoos. We all do the same thing everybody else does. And why should that make us unique? And we go, that's my truth. I want to live with it. I'm telling you right now, if you want to be creative, if you want to be different, if you want to be truly free and independent, Jesus is the man. There's been no rebel like Jesus Christ. There's no one who's ever confronted, fearlessly confronted and stood up to what he believed in more than Jesus Christ. And we are his children. We are the followers of light. We too should be different, and yet it should be very natural for us to understand what true conviction and true guts are, rather than following the way of the world. All right, last but not least, let's go to Jesus. We've talked a little bit about the light. We've talked a little bit about the darkness and our appeal to darkness. And now we're going to talk a little bit about Jesus. John 4:29, Jesus deals with the woman at the well. I don't know if you remember that story or not, but it's in John chapter 4. She was not, with his people. She was different from the group he hung around with, and therefore she felt more isolated and separated. So Jesus goes and gets some water, and she's there. She shows up with her big thing so she can get water. And all the disciples leave, and she's by herself, and it's just her and Jesus talking, and Jesus makes great revelation about himself. That's where he says, I am the water of life. Anybody who drinks of me will never be thirsty again. And she began to, at first she thought he meant, right there, the water. But now she was starting to realize, wait, he's talking to me in spiritual ways. He's saying that I can be filled up spiritually. Well, she wanted to impress him and act like, she kind of had her act together already. And so she was telling him something about her life, and he asked her about her husband, and she says something. He goes, whoa, 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 whoa. That's not true. You've been married many times. You've done a lot of things. And she realized it, and it convicted her heart. You really are God, and you seem to love me anyway. You can even take me with all my flaws and faults. And he said, yes, God's looking for you not externally, but to worship and to know him in your heart. The spirit and truth is what brings a person to God. And oh boy, was she amazed by this. So it says she left her jar. And in John 29, it said she ran to her village. She said, come see a man who told me everything I did. Could this be the Messiah? They came out of town and they made their way toward him because she was so changed by his revelation to her. Hey, I know you. I'm exposing you to the light, and I love you anyway. Even though you were trying to hide and lie and say you were somebody you're not, it's okay. I love you anyway. I know who you are. I pardon you. So guess what? The whole town believed her and ran out to see her. Now here's the deal. It wasn't the profound stuff like, I am the water of life, drink of me, you'll never thirst again. It was the fact that she was changed, that he knew her personally, and that he called to her. She didn't know all the jargon. That wasn't important. What she knew was this man loved her anyway. He touched her. He changed her. He pardoned her. He said, you're all right. Let me live through you. Let me live with you. And it changed her life. And she went and changed and told the town enough to where they went in pursuit of Jesus Christ. That's who he is, guys. He's not some big religious figure and go, oh, he happens to be the leader of Christianity, or he happens to be the philosopher of love. No, he's the truth of God. He's the light of the world. He's what you're looking for in your heart. The problem is, guys, no one thinks they're bad anymore. No one thinks anyone's bad. Nothing's bad. But the problem is that it's not that we should go to God because he loves us. We should go to God because we realize we're bad enough to need him. We're sinful enough to need him. We need God. We need a renewal. We need a change of heart. We need a better attitude. We need a clearer mind. Now, I know some would go, well, I'll never do that. And that's fine. Maybe he's not calling you. Maybe he's not calling you yet. But some of you know you need a second chance at life. You're like, man, I have really messed up. I've blown it. I need light in my life. I'm just surrounded by darkness. I'm surrounded by dark moods. I'm surrounded by dark voices. I've gotten myself caught up in something I cannot escape. And it is me. What is wrong with me? And you need Jesus Christ. You need to just say, God, I've been wrong. You're right about me. But you know what? You also love me. You also forgive me. And I need to be pardoned by you, and I need to live a free life and set myself free by your power and your grace. God, I call out to you. Help me. Let's see. I think a lot of people think, oh, well, we're the ones who created God. Mankind created God. God, there is no God. We just create him. He's a figment of our imagination right up till we die. He's this crutch we lean on. Well, I hate that that's your opinion of things, but you're free to think that if you want, of course. My challenge to you is to give God a shot. Give him a try. Talk to him. Call out to him. You say, well, I can't see him. I don't know where he's at. That's silly to talk to myself. I'm challenging you to say, God, if you're there, would you reveal your love to me? God, if you're really, really there, don't be specific. Don't say things like change this person or heal my mother or do this or that. Just say, God, if you love me and you're real, reveal yourself to me. Help me where I don't believe. Show me if it's true. Give God a chance. Don't just shut him out. Give him a chance. It says in Jeremiah 17:7-8, it says, blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in him. They will be like a tree planted by the water that sends out its roots by the stream. It does not fear what heat comes. Its leaves are always green. It has no worries in a year of drought and never fails to bear fruit. Wouldn't you love to be somebody who the brightness and the light of your life bore the proper kind of fruit? That people could look at you and say, there's a person of integrity. There's a person of grace. There's a person of joy and love and peace. It says its leaves are always green. Don't you always want to, you know how we get in trouble and we don't know what to say, or our loved ones are in a jam and that we don't know what to do for them? Wouldn't you like to know your leaves are always green? You're always filled. You may know better than to say something you don't understand, but you don't mind helping. You don't mind listening. You know there's a hope. You know there's something to be trusted in, and it's the Word of God. It's Jesus Christ, and you're full of it. You're so full that the water running through your stream is turning the leaves green in your life. You have no worries in the year of drought. When things aren't going right, you're still dependent on God. You still trust Him. It says that does not fear when trouble comes. A lot of you are going through trouble right now. You have financial troubles. You have health troubles. You have all kinds of difficulties going on. Some of you, it's communication. You're just not communicating with those you want to communicate with. And it's bothersome. It's frustrating. But God is your helper. He is the light. He can break through the darkness. He can open the room up with just the morning sun. Let Him into your life. Let God into your life. We're talking about Jesus Christ, the risen Lord. And we're going to talk about Him next week too. It's going to be Easter Sunday. What a day to celebrate. What a time to start anew in your life. The springtime, it's going to be great. It's a time to recognize that Jesus Christ rose from the dead and He lives today. He lives in your spirit. You can attach yourself to Him and He will attach Himself to you. And you'll be able to see the world with new eyes. You'll be able to speak with a clarity in your voice. You'll have an understanding about you and an awakening in your heart you've never experienced before until you allow God to come in and show you. It's kind of like, when we were in a basement. It's always good to turn on the light so we can see what's going on down there. There could be things in a dark basement. You're not going to know about it till you flip on the light. Same thing, remember being a kid and flipping over a rock, and you flip over that rock and all that moisture and the worms are crawling around and all the little things are down there doing whatever they do. But now it's been exposed to sunlight. You can see it. You can see it. It's not under the dark rock anymore. It's exposed to the light of day. Some of our hearts just need to be turned over. Some of us need to see anew. We need to let a fresh light, the sunlight of God, hit our inside so that we can become the people we're destined to be as created individuals of Jesus Christ. God Almighty, let there be light. In all that light, He brought you into the world. He has a reason and a purpose for you, and it's found in His Son, Jesus Christ. Don't just settle and go, well, I guess I'll always have that dark side. Let it go. See what it's like to live in the freedom and the grace of Jesus. Anyway, guys, I hope to see you next Sunday. Mission of Grace Live. Like I said, we'll still be filming, but we're going to have a whole lot more fun fellowshipping together. God bless you. Have a great week. I'll talk to you next time.